Hey, Compacted, here we are just getting started with that 8th grade material you all have been so eager to start. So let's get started. So thinking back to what we've already learned about, we know that we can write a rational number as a fraction. That keyword rational contains the word ratio, and we know ratios can be written as a fraction. We have a terminating decimal. And now some of this information should sound familiar because we have covered it at the beginning of the year. And a terminating decimal is a decimal that ends or terminates. And these are called rational numbers. Then we also have repeating decimals. And those are decimals that don't terminate, so non-terminating. And they have a pattern. So the digits in the decimal, as you can see in your notes, the digit in the decimal repeat. And those are also called rational numbers. So hopefully that information sounded familiar to you because that's what we covered at the beginning of the year. We also spent some time at the beginning of the year looking at how do we convert a fraction to a decimal. So we know that fractions and decimals are similar, and they're just two ways of expressing the same value. And I know that I've stressed this with you many times, but that fraction bar means division, which is really just, a fraction is just a division problem, knowing what that fraction bar means. So to do that, if the denominator is a factor of 100, you can multiply the denominator by whatever it would take to get to 100, and then you can do the same to the numerator, and then you have your decimal. For any other fraction, though, we can simply just divide the numerator by the denominator. And we'll do that. We'll just keep dividing until you have a remainder of 0. Or if you notice that you have your remainders that are creating a pattern, because that would tell you that you have a repeating decimal. So when thinking about writing these fractions as decimals, I know at the beginning of the year I spent some time talking about top dog in the house. So let's look at example 1. And we will turn those fractions into some decimals. So here we have 3/4. So this is a pretty easy one. We know that 4 is a factor of 100. So I can just rewrite my fraction out of 100. Well, 4 times 25 is 100. Therefore, 3 times 25 is 75. So now we have 75 out of 100 as my as my fraction, and I know that 75 hundredths can be written like this. So hopefully that was a touch of a bit of a review for you. Next we have 2/9. So because 9 is not a factor of 100, this is one where I am going to divide that. So again, top dog in the house. Now I need to add a decimal and any number of zeros. I usually start with 2 or 3 zeros to begin. And I'm going to bring my decimal point up And then 9 goes into 2 0 times. 9 goes into 20 2 times. Subtracting, I get 2. Bring down my 0. 9 goes into 20 2 times again. 18. Hopefully by now you're noticing the pattern that I keep getting. 9 goes into 20 2 times, and I can see that I've got a recurring pattern here. So because that 2 is repeating, this is a repeating decimal of 0.2. And to show that it's repeating, I'm going to put that line above to show that it's repeating. Now what I'd like you to do is pause the video and try these your turn questions, and then turn the video back on and check your work with my work. All right, so let's do these your turn problems. Here we have number 1, 5/11. So I'm going to put my top dog in the house, add my decimal and my zeros, move up my decimal point. 11 does not go into 5, but it does go into 54 times. 11 times 4 is 44. Subtract 6. 11 goes into 60 5 times, which is 55. Subtract, I get 5. Bring down my 0, 50. 11 goes into 50 4 times. 11 goes into 60 5 times. Are we starting to see a pattern here? I've got 0.4545. So that is a repeating decimal because I have a pattern. So my decimal equivalent here is 0.45. And because both the 4 and the 5 repeat, my line goes above both. Now for number 2, we have 1/8. Again, top dog in the house. Eight goes into 10 1 time. Eight goes into 2 2 times. And 8 goes into 40 exactly 5 times. Therefore, I have a remainder of 0. So now I see here that I have a terminating decimal of 0.125. And our last one here, we have a mixed number. Now, just because we have a mixed number, it doesn't change the way that we work it out, because we know in a decimal, we know any digit to the left of the decimal point is a whole number. So I'm already going to put a 2 point, because I already know that, and I am just going to work with 1/3. Three goes into 1 0 times. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 goes into 3 times. I'm noticing a pattern here. And hopefully that, just looking at 1/3, hopefully that's one of those benchmark fractions that you automatically just know that it is 0.33 repeating. So we know that 2 and 1/3 as a decimal number is 2.3. And because it's repeating, that line is above just the 3.